So I want to thank everyone for coming today. My name is Brandon Grant. I'm the Marketing Director here at QuoteWerks. Today we're going to be demonstrating how you can use QuoteWerks and ACT together to streamline your sales quoting and proposal generation process. We're going to go over a very short PowerPoint, just a couple slides, just to kind of introduce some of you to QuoteWerks who may not be too familiar with it, and then we'll actually go through the full demonstration. There is a questions box in the GoToMeeting bar, kind of like on the side of your screen. So if you do have questions as we're going over things, feel free to type them in and send them over to me. If I don't answer your question right away, don't worry, I am going to circle back at the end of the webinar and make sure I answer everybody's questions. So, don't get discouraged if you're posting a question or you post a couple questions and I don't respond right away. I will answer those. I'll come back to those if I don't get to them right at that point. So like I said, we're going to do a short PowerPoint presentation today. We're just kind of discuss, what is QuoteWerks, who uses QuoteWerks. We even have a nice little diagram for you of kind of how you use QuoteWerks and ACT together. It's extremely useful because it kind of lets you visualize how the software works and how it integrates with ACT. I'm going to list some of the resources we have on the website as well, so you'll have those available to you and kind of know what's on the website for free. And then we'll obviously, like I said, we'll go through the demonstration of the features as well. So what is QuoteWerks? QuoteWerks is a sales quoting and proposal generation software tool. So what exactly does that mean? What that means is we help automate the creation of your sales quotes and proposals for the customer. So we're helping you kind of automate that process of having to build your documents that you deliver to the client. We have over 76,000 users in over 100 countries, been around over 20 years, so we have a lot of experience. It's a program that's very robust and has grown exponentially over time. We can create, not just quotes. I know the name is QuoteWerks, but we can do more than just quotes. We can also do content-rich proposals. So if you create, single-page quotes or multiple-page quotes where there's just line items, or you're doing proposals where there's cover pages and other attachments, we're going to be able to handle that for you as well. You'll be able to electronically deliver and accept and receive payment through QuoteWerks as well, so you'll actually be able to electronically have your client sign off on the documents. We're able to utilize templates and bundles and configurations to help kind of streamline the creation process part of it. So you're going to be able to kind of make sure that everything that's coming from your installation is already set up for your users so that they don't have to worry about manually inputting too much data. It's going to be a lot more automated for them. Additionally, everything that you send out in QuoteWerks is going to be branded with your information. So you're actually going to have these uniform documents that go out. So every document, no matter which rep sends it out or if it's just you by yourself, every document is going to look very similar. And speaking at least from a marketing perspective, that's always been important for us, is that we want everything to be an extension of your company. That's what your quote or proposal is. It's showing your clients, hey, this is what we're going to be doing for you, and you want to be able to offer them a professional looking document when you do that. So who uses QuoteWerks? QuoteWerks is used by pretty much anyone who needs to create a quote or proposal. And I know that's pretty generic and vague, but it is true. So if you're creating line item documents, if you're creating custom proposals, if you're a VAR, if you're an MSP, QuoteWerks is something that would probably work for you. We do offer a free trial, and we highly encourage you to test it to see if it'll work in your environment. But for a lot of people, if that's the way you're doing your documents, it's usually a really good fit. We do also support recurring revenue, so any of you that have weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual charges and you want to break those out and show the client what their charges are going to be, we support that as well. If anyone offers hardware as a service or software as a service products or items as well, we're going to be able to support that for you also. So QuoteWerks and ACT, what are we doing between the two? So you can kind of see this is going to start to get into how you're going to use QuoteWerks and how you can use it with ACT. So you're basically going to create, we're going to integrate, we're going to deliver the document, track it, we can report on it, and even place orders. So as far as creating the documents, you're talking about those simple one-page quotes, multiple page proposals, and everything in between. It's a very robust software. It's going to allow you to choose exactly how you want to build your documents. Like I said, we do support document templates so that everything is uniform. You're not having to start from scratch each time you need to create a new document in QuoteWerks. Our integration with ACT is very, very robust. So we're automatically going to be able to create the opportunities in ACT. We'll be updating them. We'll even write the line items into the ACT opportunity as well. You can even set follow-up calls, to-dos, meetings from the QuoteWerks integration as well, so you can make sure that you're always staying on top of these documents. When we deliver the document, you're going to have two delivery options. You can deliver it just an email PDF, which is what a lot of people choose to do. We also have an electronic version called Quote Valet, which will allow you to send essentially a tracked URL to your client where they can electronically sign off on the document. You'll also receive notifications when they do make payment, or if they accept it, or if they post comments. And I'm going to show you how all that works here today. Since we are sending that URL, we can track those customer interactions, and you're also going to be able to track when quotes and proposals are expiring. So you're actually going to be able to see, okay, run a report on these dates, or show me what's expiring at the end of the month. You're going to have all that capabilities in the software. Reporting, we have a lot of reporting features in QuoteWerks. If you're using ACT for your sales reporting, that's fine. You can continue to do that. If you'd like to run reports out of QuoteWerks, you'll have that option, as well as we do have a lot of reporting capabilities also. And then finally, if any of you are using Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Synnex, or D&H, we're able to place online orders directly with those distributors. So if you're using them in QuoteWerks, you'll be able to actually place online orders through the software. So the QuoteWerks workflow, it's going to be very straightforward. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to select our contact. That's where we always want to start. Once we've selected the contact, you start building your documents. So you start selecting your products and services that you want to quote to the client. We're then going to go to delivery. So we're now going to deliver the document to the client, whether you're emailing it, whether you're using Quote Valet, whether it's a quote, whether it's a proposal, doesn't matter. That's going to be the next step, is the delivery of the document. Once the client receives it, they're ready to move forward. They can accept it and even possibly make payment. If you do accept credit card payments or PayPal, they'll have the option to make payment through Quote Valet. Once the client has accepted the document, you can actually update the document as one in QuoteWerks. This is really popular because this is automatically going to update your opportunity in ACT as well. So basically, when the client accepts the document, you update the document in QuoteWerks as one or as closed, and we're going to update that opportunity in ACT for you automatically. If anything's changed, we're going to update that also. So make sure that everything is always configured correctly, and whatever the client has accepted is what you're actually updating in ACT. From there, if you're going to be using the online ordering through QuoteWerks, you'll be able to check vendor pricing with Tech Data, Ingram, Synnex, D&H. You can place that online order. If you're not using the online order or those vendors in QuoteWerks, that's fine. We still have the option to export your document over to QuickBooks or Sage 50 if you're using any of those. For QuickBooks, we can export as an estimate, sales order, invoice, and also as a purchase order. For Sage 50, we can do a sales order, invoice, or purchase order. So you have those options if you want to take the document directly from QuoteWerks into QuickBooks or Sage 50. We also can create a PO in QuoteWerks, which you can then add delivery and tracking information. So if you want to track like serial numbers and tracking numbers and things of that nature, you'll be able to do that. If you do have questions while you're evaluating QuoteWerks, we do encourage you to use the resources on the website. We have a lot of videos that are available, feature videos. These live and recorded webinars are available to you as well, so we do definitely encourage you to check those out. We also have the help file that's going to have all the features in QuoteWerks, basically our user's manual that's available to you online. There's even a user's forum, so if you have questions and you want to interact with other QuoteWerks users, that's a great place to go. And then obviously our email and phone support. If you have a question, pick up the phone, give us a call. We'll be happy to speak with you and answer any questions that you may have. If you don't want to talk on the phone, send us an email and we'll respond within 24 hours as well. As far as the trial goes, if you haven't downloaded the free trial, we do highly recommend it. It's a free 30-day trial. It's going to have the trial integration with ACT as well as the accounting companies if you're working, or the accounting integrations if you're using QuickBooks or Sage 50. It also lets you test out the distributor integrations if you are in IT and you want to test those out. There is free support during trial, so if you can't get something to work, can't figure something out, again, feel free to give us a call, send us an email. If you want a personalized demonstration, just let your sales rep know, and they can set that up for you as well. You can see the contact information on the screen, so if you do have questions, feel free to give us a call or send us an email. All right, so like I said, it's going to be pretty short for you, so it's going to be pretty painless. So right now, what we're going to go to is the demonstration of QuoteWerks and how this operates in your installation. So what you see here is going to be the main screen. And in QuoteWerks, the main screen is going to be what we call the quote workbooks. That's the 6 tabs up at the top. So if I'm looking up at the top here, I see these 6 tabs. This is what I'm talking about. The document item screen is where you're going to spend most of your time in QuoteWerks. This is where your products and services are going to be listed. So anytime you need to change an item's description, quantity, pricing, anything like that, you'll be able to make those adjustments here. The Sold to Ship to tab is going to be the customer contact information. This is pulled directly from ACT. So one of the really nice things about our integration with ACT is there's no need to ever run a sync or an import or anything like that. It's going to be a live search from QuoteWerks into ACT. So you can actually pull in contacts that already exist into QuoteWerks. The Sale Info tab is going to be your document-specific information. So this is where we're going to have information such as the document date, the tax rate is set, the expiration date, who has ownership of the document, so the sales rep. If you have a customer PO number you want to reference, if you want to set your terms here, you can use that as well. So there's a few different things that you can offer as well. If any of you are offer lease options for your clients where they can pay you by leasing, we do offer lease payment options as well. The Notes tab is made up of 4 different fields. We have the introduction and closing on the left-hand side and the purchasing and internal on the right-hand side. The introduction and closing notes are typically notes you would want the client to see. So if you have about us information or ordering instructions, or in this case, I just have some notes about, just thanks for looking at QuoteWerks, and if you have any questions, let me know kind of thing. Just a couple sentences here, you can use that. You'll see there is an option to set defaults. That way you don't have to set them each time, but you can change them on a quote-to-quote or document-to-document basis if you want to. The purchasing and internal notes are going to be notes that you can use for any kind of internal memos you want to put in about this document, or just notes for yourself or for other users. If you're collaborating on a document, you don't have to worry about the client ever seeing these. These are going to stay strictly in QuoteWerks only. The Custom tab is extremely useful if you have additional fields that you need in your quote or proposal, but you don't see that field available in QuoteWerks currently. What we can do is we can actually customize these fields so that you can use them for that specific field. So for instance, we don't have a account number field in QuoteWerks, so I've actually customized it. And the way I did that was hovering over my label field and then holding control on my keyboard and then double click. And that will let me rename that field. So if I wanted to call it, maybe we have account numbers and account names for our clients, so we want to put that in there. Now I can have those fields on my document if I need to. And this is also true with anything else on the Notes, Sale Info, and Sold to Ship to tabs. If you want to repurpose or rename a field, just hold Control, double click, and you can easily rename that field. Makes it extremely easy to customize the software and to use the same verbiage that you're used to in your current sales process. Our vocabulary might be a little different than yours, so this makes it an easy way to kind of switch it over. This is going to be a site change, so that's one thing to keep in mind. So what that means is that'll change it for everybody. So just keep that in mind if you're going to make these changes, that this is the verbiage that everyone's going to use when using the software. And finally, the Links tab is going to be where you can attach additional documentation to your quote or proposal. So if you have a statement of work, Visio or CAD drawing, Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint presentation, any type of document that you want to attach here, you can attach it by clicking on the Add File Link button or dragging and dropping it. Now, one thing to note is that anything that you attach here is not going to be moved. We're essentially creating a shortcut for that document that you can either send to the client at a later date, or if you want to access it from here, you'll have that option. So just keep that in mind, that if you are going to link documents here, we're not going to attach, or we're not going to move them to a different location. So that's important, because if you're linking to something that's on your desktop and another user in your installation would like to take a look at it, if it's on your desktop, they obviously won't have access to it. So just keep that in mind. Up at the top, we have our toolbar shortcuts. These are the most commonly used menu options. So if you look at the very top here, we have quite a few different menu options, and underneath those, there's quite a few different menu selections available. So what we've done is created some toolbar shortcuts for you, just to help kind of navigate you around the software a little quicker, and just so you don't have to look for the menu option each time. The first one, the New button, very straightforward. Create a new blank document. It'll look exactly like this. This is also where you can access templates. So if you are creating document templates in QuoteWerks where your users are accessing predefined or predetermined documents that you've already created for them, maybe there's a couple products or services that you always offer, so you've created templates for those. This is where they'll have access to it, and you can click on the drop down and choose if it's going to be a new from the template or new, just a blank document like this. Your open window is where you'll search for your previously created documents in QuoteWerks. This window will let you search by pretty much anything. You can search by document name, document number, the status of the document, the sales rep, who's prepared by. company is created for. All that information is going to be available for you here as well. So really, any way you want to look for a document, you'll be able to do so at this point. The save icon is going to be very important. In QuoteWerks, the save is what's going to trigger the integration with ACT. So obviously it's going to save your document in QuoteWerks, but it's also going to be where you're going to choose the integration points with ACT. So when you're ready to send the information from QuoteWerks over to ACT, this is where you're going to do that. The really nice thing is it's automatic. So once you have your checkboxes, you just hit OK, and it's going to send all the info over there. And we'll get into a lot more detail on that here in just a few minutes. Just backtracking a little bit, I see we had a question about the links tab. Someone was asking if it will attach the document to the quote for the customer to receive. Yes, it can. There's actually an option, and you'll see here when we go to deliver it, that if you want the document attached to the quote proposal you're sending out, you do have that option. The revision icon is how we handle revisions in QuoteWerks. So if you send out a quote to a customer and they come back to you and they ask you to make some changes, instead of having to start from scratch or do like a file copy, file save as, you can simply click on the revision icon and that'll create a copy of the exact document in QuoteWerks for you. And also keep track of it, so it's going to add a -01, -02, -03 of the document number as well, so that you'll always know which version of the document you're on. The deliver icon, this is going to be very straightforward. This is when you're ready to send the document to the client. This is we're going to go into a lot more detail on this as well, but this is essentially we're going to build the output. So you can see here I have a list of templates, and this is my training installation, so I have quite a few different ones. But this is where you're basically going to build out exactly what you want the document to look like before you deliver it to the client. The dashboard, this is going to give you a nice summary of your documents in QuoteWerks. The first dashboard you'll see available is going to be the My Summary dashboard. The My Summary dashboard is going to display your quota for this month, how many quotes you've created, how many were converted to orders, same thing for last month and 2 months ago, so you'll be able to see that information. It'll also show you your last, I believe it's up to 8 or 9 recent documents, maybe even be 10, I don't remember the exact number now, but you'll see they are hyperlinked. So if you worked on a document yesterday and you want to revisit that document, you can always go to your dashboard and it'll show you any of your recent documents that you worked on. Really nice feature here is the quotes expiring within the next 7 days. Instead of having to run a report, every week or every month about which quotes are expiring, you can just come into your dashboard and see which quotes are expiring within the next week. You could do a search as well if you want to see farther out or quotes that have already expired. But this is nice because it just makes it a little easier to stay on top of any documents that might be expiring in QuoteWerks. The Opportunities dashboard is going to provide a little more insight than the My Summary. So this is actually going to break it down and show you kind of like forecasts for your documents. So you can actually see currently I had 3 quotes that were converted to lost. I have 9 that are still open, and then I have 10 that I've closed. So this is showing me kind of how I'm doing for the month so far. It'll show me my top 5 won quotes over on the right-hand side, and my top 5 open ones. This is extremely useful because I can follow up on these. If these are going to be the higher value ones, I can make sure that I am able to go through with those. Top 5 lost opportunities. Also great for, if you're having a slow month or if you want to go back to a previous month. You can see here there's an option to change the date range. So right now it's set to this month, but I could change it to last month if I wanted to. And say, okay, this month's a little slower. Let me see if I can maybe reopen one of those opportunities from last month. So it just kind of gives you that quick snapshot of information. It'll also show you which products you're selling the most of. You'll see this one's done by quantity, which means I've sold the most of this particular item. You can also see the top 5 products won by their dollar value. So not just how many you've actually sold, but what their dollar value has been during that date range. And then here, again, it's going to give you a little more information than that My Summary. It's going to show you your quota, kind of how you're doing, but then also show you for this for that quarter how you're doing. So how have you hit your quota? What was your delta? How many's open? How much lost? That type of information. And you can see there's even a year-to-date total to kind of show you where you are. So it provides a lot of information in one spot. Makes it just kind of very easy to see that here. The QuoteWerks dashboard, or the Quote Valet dashboard rather, is going to show you a little more information about your documents in QuoteWerks, such as all the activity of your document. So every document you send out via Quote Valet is going to be displayed here when you receive a notification. So when a client views the document for the first time, we're going to send you an email. If they accept a quote, we're going to send you an email. If they make payment, if they post a comment, we're going to send you an email for all those major notifications. However, we're also going to we're going to include a notification in your dashboard here anytime something happens to your document. So if they view the document, change an option, post anything, you'll receive notification here. So you'll basically get them in 2 spots just to make sure you're covered. You know, if you don't have access to your email and you're on your you're in QuoteWerks, you'll be able to get that. If you don't have access to QuoteWerks but you're in your email, you'll get the notification that way. So just kind of give you 2 spots to look for it. Products icon, this is where your products and services will be stored in QuoteWerks. Pretty straightforward. So you can set up your own items in QuoteWerks. If you want to import a price list, you can do that. If you want to link to an existing price list, you know, if you have it in Excel or Access or SQL already, we can link to that database. Otherwise, you can set up multiple vendors in QuoteWerks as well. And like I said, we do support recurring items. So if you do have services that recur, you know, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annual, you'll be able to set those up in QuoteWerks as well. Bundles are groups of or kits of items in QuoteWerks. So extremely useful to show your client, you know, maybe you're grouping items together because you want to sell them as a package. You know, if you purchase them from your vendor in that package, you get a deal, so you're going to pass that savings on to your client. You can set up bundles so you don't have to individually select those items each time you want to quote them out. You can just group them together as a bundle or as a kit and sell that as a package. All right, and then a couple of other icons I'm just going to quickly go over. The best, latest, compare. This is probably the last 3 we'll talk about here, and then we'll go ahead and move forward with the demonstration. But the best, latest, compare will let you refresh pricing on your document. So if you send out a document to your client, you know, maybe 6 months ago, and your pricing has changed, and you want to update the quote, you can use these icons. That way, you don't have to research or build the document from scratch. Best will source it from the best cost vendor. So if you have, you know, vendor A and vendor B and they sell the same items, sometimes your pricing is better from vendor A, sometimes it's from vendor B. Best will automatically source that item from the best cost vendor, no matter which one you had selected previously. Latest will update your items with the latest pricing from the selected vendor. So if you have items from vendor A on there and you click latest, it's not going to look at vendor B or any other vendor. It's just going to look at vendor A, give you the latest cost from vendor A. And then compare will let you compare across multiple vendors in a grid format, so you can see which vendors have the best cost if you want to kind of compare them to each other. A couple questions here, so I'm just going to pause for them real quick. Someone's asking if you're able to get your products out of QuickBooks instead of QuoteWerks. Yes, we can actually link directly to the QuickBooks price list. So if you want to pull your items directly from QuickBooks into QuoteWorks, you can do that. If you want to import them into QuoteWorks, you can do that also. It's going to be your decision. And then we have another question about the dashboard. If you wanted to configure for fiscal quarters that don't correspond with the calendar year, not yet, but that is something that we're looking at doing. However, you can change the date range if you just want to see kind of how they've done the last, 3 quarters. That's something that'll show up in the My Summary, but that is something we're looking at adding as well. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and start our new document in QuoteWorks. So to start a new document, we always want to start on the Sold To, Ship To tab. And the reason we want to do that is we want to always make sure we select the contact about who we're going to sell to in QuoteWorks. So on the Sold To, Ship To tab, I can pull in an active contact from ACT by clicking on the little card icon here. So if I already had the contact open in ACT, I can click on here, and that'll pull that contact into QuoteWorks automatically for me. If you'd rather search for a contact, click on the magnifying glass. This will bring up your Lookup ACT contact search window, and you can use the currently displayed one, or you can search for the database for a contact, and you can search by company, contact, last name, or phone number. You can also display secondary contacts. So if you've created secondary contacts on a lot of the accounts, you can pull those instead. So if I type in here, we'll just type in what we're looking for here. So CH Tech 1, you'll see all the results that match with that one. And then I can select which contacts I want to pull in. The Sold To fields are sort of like your default fields in QuoteWorks. These are who we're going to create the opportunity for. This is the email address we're going to use when we send out the document to the client. This is who we're going to create the to-dos for, all that information. So you'll always want to make sure you fill out the Sold To, use that as your default setting. The Ship To and Bill To fields are just additional fields. So if you need them, they're there and you can use them. If not, you can actually leave them blank. It's going to be up to you. So if I wanted to select, in this case, let's say we'll select Allison as our Ship To and Jane as our Bill To. You can see it's very easy to mix and match contacts. You can even mix and match companies. Obviously, this is essentially the same company. But if I wanted to mix and match companies, I could. Maybe you're selling to one location and they have a sister company that everything actually needs to ship to, but it's billed out of a parent company, that's fine. You can mix and match as needed. These fields don't have to correlate together. To add those contacts to the document, you see I just used my sold to, ship to, and bill to button, so that just populates each field with each button. And then if you click on all, it'll actually take the one contact. So if I wanted to select Chris here and click all, it'll put the same contact across all three fields. So you have a lot of flexibility with how you want to add contacts to the document. So now that we have our contact, we can start building our document in QuoteWerks. In QuoteWerks, you have the ability to organize the document into different sections using what we call heading lines. Now, this is optional. You don't have to do it this way. If you don't organize your document this way, you can skip this step, but it's just something I like to show because it's pretty important. It makes it easy for the client to see exactly what they're purchasing. So, for instance, if I right-click on my document item screen, it's going to bring up my edit menu. It gives me quite a few options to choose from. It's actually the same menu as if you clicked on the edit option up at the top. It's obviously just easier to right-click instead of having to go to edit each time, so that's why that's available. And you'll see there's an option called insert headings. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then it's prompting me, okay, we'll put in your heading description. So in this case, maybe we'll do products. Just a very generic heading. And we'll put in one more, so I'm going to right-click again, insert heading, and I'm going to put one in for services. And then I'm going to right-click one more time, and we'll do one for optional items. And then I'll just delete this extra line here. So what this is going to allow me to do is, as I'm adding products or services or optional items to my document, I can actually tell QuoteWerks exactly where I want the items to appear in my document. So it just gives you some control over where things are showing up. It's really nice on the sales rep side of things because you can, if you're building a larger quote, if you have 150 items or 200 items on a quote, you can make sure that everything's going exactly where it should be. On the customer side of things, they can actually see the breakdown, say, okay, these are all the products items, or these are the hardware items, or these are the service items, or these are the recurring items. So however you want to do it, it's up to you. And your heading descriptions can be whatever you'd like. If you want to call something, maybe you're doing it by offices, maybe you're doing some type of install for offices, so you're saying, okay, this is for Office 1, this is for Office 2, this one's for Room 1, Room 2. However you want to set that up, that's going to be up to you. So let's go ahead and start adding items now. So to add items to my document, very, very simple. So I'm going to click on my products icon, and this is going to bring up my product lookup window. And my product lookup window is going to allow me to search by a couple different options. Any databases you have set up in QuoteWerks are going to show up here on the left-hand side. If you only have one, that's fine. If you set up one for each vendor, you can do that as well. So you can see here I have one called Our Products. I have vendor A and vendor B as well. If you want to search all vendors at the same time, at the very top, there's a multiple database search option that'll let you search by those different vendors. So in this case, that's the one I'm going to use. So I can go to the right here, see there's an option for choose databases, and choose which databases I want to search through. In this case, it's going to be my 3 databases available. And then I can choose how I want to search for an item. Do I want to search by the manufacturer, vendor part number, item description, or manufacturer part number? So in this case, let's say I want to search by description. So I'll type in the word switch, and this is what's going to return back. And you'll see here it's going to tell me which vendor I can source it from under my vendor column. All right, and then I see there's a question someone's asking. This is actually a pretty important question. They're asking, does ACT, QuoteWerks, and QuickBooks need to run at the same time to sync? Yes, we're not actually going to be doing essentially a true sync. We kind of do things behind the scenes. But yes, in order to integrate with QuickBooks and ACT, you will want to run all 3 programs simultaneously. So now that I've found an item, I want to go ahead and add it to my document. So to add the item to my document, I'm simply going to highlight it. And you can either double-click on the item or choose Select Add, and that'll bring up the Add Item Assistant. The Add Item Assistant is where you can make changes to this item before you add it to the document. So you can adjust the quantity. Maybe we want to use the up and down arrows and change it to 5, or you decide, I'm just going to type in the quantity of 2. So you can either type it in or use those up and down arrows. You can also set our price modifier here. So if you want to mark items up maybe 15% from cost, I can type M15. Or maybe you use margin. You say, you know what, all hardware items or all products that we sell, we have to have a minimum of a 15% margin. So I can type in P15, and that would be a 15% margin. If you just want to sell items for a certain price, maybe you just want to sell it for $11.50 even, you could just type it in. So a lot of flexibility in how you want to set your pricing. If you forget our shortcuts, if you're saying, oh, well, we mark up from cost, but I can't remember the shortcut, just click on the ellipsis button here, and that'll let you select, okay, markup, and then set your percentage. We'll say we want a 12% markup, and hit OK. And that'll set our markup and our new price for us. Additionally, from here, you can check price history. So if you've ever seen this, if you've ever sold this particular part number to this particular client, you can actually see what you sold it to them for. So I've never sold this one to them before, but if I had, I would actually see what their price was, the quantity, the date, my cost, the modifier that I used, the document it was in, the document number, all that information is going to be available. So it makes it very easy to stay consistent with pricing, especially with any clients who might do a lot of ordering from you or a lot of items from you on a regular basis. You can actually see what you charged them last time they purchased this particular item. Additionally, directly below the price history for the customer, we'll show the price history for this item. This will show you anytime you sold this item to the client. So if you've ever sold this item to the client, which you can see, pretty popular item, sold it quite a bit, it'll show you the price, the quantity, the date, the modifier that was used, all the same information. It's just showing it for every client instead of just the one. So very valuable, very easy to keep track of your pricing, what you sold to a client last time. If you want to give someone the same deal as this week, you'll be able to do that very easily here. And then the last thing on the screen on this Add Item Assistant is being able to choose where you want the item to show up. So again, this is where that heading lines come into play, and when they're useful is you can say, okay, let me click down here. This is a product item. Let me select products, click Add, and it adds it under my products section. So as I'm going through, if I wanted to go to a specific database instead of searching all of my databases, maybe I know, okay, vendor B has a bunch of items that I want to purchase, so I'm just going to go straight to that database. I can just click on that database, and you can see here I can click on Show All, and that'll show a list of all the items I have set up in that particular database. From here, I can add a couple other items. If you want to add multiple items to your document, hold Control on your keyboard, and that'll actually let you highlight and select multiple items at once. And then again, you can choose Select Add, and it's just going to bring up the Add Item Assistant. If you have pictures associated with your items, we can also show those on the document as well. So I can go through here, select Products. We'll say that's optional. Then we're getting into, we'll say that's optional. And then we're getting into some of our services. So let's go ahead and add those onto our document. So you can see how easy it is to tell QuoteWerks exactly where you want the item to show up on the document. We do support drag and drop, so if you do put something under the wrong section, it's easy enough to move it to the next section above it. The price history is coming from QuoteWerks, so I have a couple questions about the price history. Yeah, the price history is coming from QuoteWerks, so you do have to quote it out of QuoteWerks because we're basically referencing our database. The price history does not require QuickBooks because it is coming just strictly from QuoteWerks. All right, so now that we have some items on our document, we can make any changes to the items if we need to. So if we need to edit an item's quantity, very easy. You can choose which item you want to change the quantity to, type in the quantity, and make that change. If you want to change multiple items' quantity, we can do that at once. You can just highlight the items, and you can see here all I'm doing is kind of just left clicking on the side, and then if I hold Control, I can actually select multiple items. And then if I right-click, that'll bring me back to that edit menu. You'll see there's an option down here that says Apply Quantity. So I can actually change the quantity across all the items at once. You can see it'll update it there. Same thing if you wanted to adjust pricing. If you look at the top here, we actually show you what your profit and your profit margin, as well as the extended cost, the extended price, and the extended list is of this items or the items in this document. If you highlight one item, it'll just show you just for that specific item. Or if you highlight two, just for those two items. So you can actually see kind of, okay, maybe my products, I require a minimum of 12% margin, our company policy. So now I can actually update my pricing to make sure I get there. So if I right-click on these two highlighted items, I can choose Apply Price Modifier, and we'll just put in a new margin of 12%. Hit OK. You'll see those two are updated. Our price changed, and now our margin is set at 12%. So we're good on those two items there. From here, if I wanted to change any pricing manually, I could do that as well. Maybe this item, I just want to sell it for $7.75. I can just quickly change the price. If you want to manually mark them up as well, you can do that. If you want to discount from list, we support that also. Additionally, if you want to change any of the items descriptions, maybe if you type in the description field here, if you double click, this will open up your Zoom window, and you can change an item's description so it makes it a little more manageable for the client. So you can say, okay, you don't really need to know all this other information, just know that it's this Cisco switch in this case, so it's a little more straightforward for them. Last thing I wanted to show on this screen before we send this information over to ACT are the line attributes. So in QuoteWerks, every item has what we refer to as line attributes, and the line attributes are how we determine what type of product or service this is in QuoteWerks. So we're basically saying, hey, do you want these items to print? Are they optional? All that type of information. So if you want to set the items as optional or just change item line attributes, highlight one or multiple line items, right-click, and choose Edit Line Attributes. And here we can choose the different attributes that are available. So for instance, in this case, we want these items to be set as optional. So we're going to go ahead and choose yes, they are optional. And then is selected. This means that your items are included in the quote total. They'll also be included in the opportunity for ACT. So if you offer optional items on your quotes or your proposals for your clients a lot of times, make sure you check this box for is selected in order for it to be included in the opportunity in ACT. If you leave it unchecked, it won't be included because it's basically saying that the items aren't there. From here, we can also change our tax code. So if it's taxable or non-taxable, you can adjust that. Also, you can change the pricing. So if you don't want to show the price of the individual items, you have the option to do that. Extremely useful if you're selling items as a bundle or the groups that we talked about earlier, and you don't want the client to see the individual prices of your items. You just want them to see, hey, you're getting this gold package, and here's the breakdown of everything you're buying, and you're just going to show them a subtotal of that particular package. You can do that by hiding the prices of the individual items. Hiding the quantity, extremely useful for anyone that offers any type of services that are like hourly, that are charged hourly. So if you have labor or installation or anything like that, instead of having that comment or that conversation with your client where they may say, okay, you quoted me 12 hours of labor, doesn't seem like that big of a job, can you do it in 6? Instead of having to have that conversation, you can just hide the quantity, and then you don't have to worry about them seeing how many hours of labor it actually is. They'll just see the labor charge is as much, almost looks like a flat rate to them. So it makes it a little easier to kind of hide that information from the client. Print line, if you don't want items to show up on the document, again, extremely useful if you have items in a group. Maybe you don't want to show them that your gold package has 15 different items, that you just want them to know that, hey, this is your gold ultimate package of everything that you need, and here's the price. You just want it very simple for them so you're not overwhelming them. You can hide individual line items in the document as well. They'll still be included in the total. They'll still be sent over to the ACT opportunity. They just won't appear on the document that's being sent to the client. And then print picture, if you do have pictures set up with your items, you'll be able to have those appear on the document or not. That's what the setting is going to be for. And then anyone that offers any type of recurring services, you can set that up here as well. So you can choose whether or not you want those items to appear in as recurring. So if they're weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annual, you can set that here. All right, a couple other options if you right-click that are going to be extremely useful as you're using the software and evaluating. If you just need to add a line item to the document, maybe it's a one-time product or one-time service that you're offering and you don't want to create it in a product database, you can insert a blank line and just quickly add it to the document. Inserting a comment is a great way to add more descriptions to your document. So if you just want to show client or put some more information about a particular line item in the document, you can use a comment line for that. There's no quantity or pricing associated with it. It's just going to be text. We also have the ability to add % discount and % charge line items. So very useful if you're saying, hey, this client's a really good customer. I want to give them a 10% discount on their quote, but I want them to see it just so that they know that they did get the discount. You can do that very easily. Same thing with % charge. Maybe you're going to charge 3 or 4% extra because the client wants to pay with a credit card. You can add that to the document also. And the last thing I wanted to show, or second last thing I wanted to mention, is going to be if you wanted to run subtotals. So if I wanted to run subtotals between my different sections, again, I can right-click and choose Add Subtotal, and that'll actually subtotal up the different sections in my document for my client, so they can see kind of how things are breaking down. I can even type in here and change this description. So if I wanted to call this my products subtotal and my services subtotal, I'll have that option. And if I want to remove them, You can see how easy it is. Just highlight them, and then you can hit delete on your keyboard or right-click and choose delete line, and that'll let you remove additional line items from the document. Like I talked about earlier, if you need to drag and drop or cut and paste, all those actions are supported on this document item screen to move things around, so you can choose exactly how you want the items to appear on your document. Okay, so let's go ahead and send this information into ACT. So we've made all our changes. We're ready to send it to the client. So the first thing we're going to do is obviously save it. So just like if you're saving a Word document or Excel, it's the same exact thing. You're going to give the document a document name. Now we have macros set, kind of like a default naming convention. That way you just don't save documents without a name. We're going to use the company that we're selling to and today's date. You could change this if you'd like. You can add on to it if you'd like. You can delete this part if you want to. It's going to be up to you how you want to name your documents. The document number will be assigned for you automatically, so you don't have to worry about managing document numbers. QuoteWerks is going to take care of that for you. Status of the document, very similar to how ACT opportunities have statuses. This is where you can set the status of your opportunity or status of your quote in QuoteWerks, so you know kind of what stage or what the progress is of that particular document. Project number, this is extremely useful if you have multiple quotes for the same project. You can actually assign them the same project number, and that way you can track kind of the status of all your projects going on in QuoteWerks. So what that means is basically if I create a quote and maybe this is phase 1 of the project, and I create a separate quote and that's going to be phase 2, maybe there are different opportunities in ACT because they may not go with both of them, but they're part of the same project. I can link them by that project number and have them, and you'd be able to report on them and see which ones have closed, which ones are open, that type of information. And then down here, this is where it's going to let you choose the integration features that you want to use with ACT. So there's actually going to be checkboxes for it. So you can choose if you want to create the linked document, which is basically like a shortcut back to the QuoteWerks document. We can create the follow-up call in ACT, the meeting, a to-do, and obviously the sales opportunity. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK for all of these. So the first thing it's going to do is going to save our document in QuoteWorks. So you can see it's now saved, and that's our document number. And then it's going to prompt us to create the ACT sales opportunity. Now, if I want to change my process or my stage, anything like that, my close date, I can change those fields here. I can put in a new note, add a competitor, who do I want to associate with. All those fields are going to be available. And then once I'm ready, I can hit OK, and then that'll create that opportunity in ACT for me. Now it's going to prompt you to create the call. So in this case, if I want to set a call activity, if I want to schedule it for a different date, different time, duration, who's it scheduled for? Is it scheduled for this contact? Maybe it's a different contact on the quote that I want to schedule it for. Do I want to set a reminder for myself so that goes off? You'll be able to do that here. Activity is going to be the exact same thing as the call, except it's going to be meeting instead of the call. So maybe you have a meeting to discuss the quote. You can set that reminder here as well. Same thing with the to-do. You'll be able to set that for your user as well. So if we go into ACT and we go to our, we're already on the contact, we go to our opportunity here. We can actually see there's the opportunity that we just created. And then if we open up that opportunity, you'll see we do write the line items into the document for the client. So they'll get a copy of that, or we include that in the ACT opportunity. So if someone doesn't have access to QuoteWorks, they can always go to this products tab and see which items are being quoted for this specific opportunity. And that happens automatically. You don't have to worry about manually doing it. It's just part of the integration process. But you can see all I had to do in order to send that information to ACT was simply hit save. That's just going to be the trigger to send the information from QuoteWorks to ACT. Anytime you need to make changes to the document, whether you're changing quantity, removing items, adding items, anything like that, all you need to do to update the ACT opportunity with those changes is hit save. And you'll see it'll, again, bring up your dialog box, show you the name, the document number, all that information, and then it'll bring up the update ACT sales opportunity. So since this opportunity has already been created, we're just going to update it with any changes. I can hit OK, and I'm just going to cancel out of these other ones here, and that would update it with any changes that have been made. So it makes it very easy to say, keep everything up to date. And if you try to close out of QuoteWorks without updating the opportunity, QuoteWorks will actually pop up a message and let you know. All right, so let's go ahead and deliver this to the client. So we're ready to send it over. We're going to click on the deliver icon, and this is where we're going to build the output that the client is going to view. So you can send a simple one-page quote. Maybe we want to include a cover page or more of a proposal style document. So you'll see up at the top you have your different tabs. So the first one is going to be the cover page. So basically, do you want to include a cover page? If so, select a cover page. If you don't, there's an option for none all the way at the top. I'm just going to go ahead and select one that we can use here. The next option is going to be the layout. This is the actual, essentially the line item output that the client's going to view. So the information that's in here, maybe the information on the sold to, ship to tab, that type. So this is where you're going to select your output. You can select more than one by selecting your primary first. So you have to have a primary. And then if you want to select a different one or another layout that you want to include, we can select a second one as well. Literature documentation is typically going to be documentation that is sent out with every quote or proposal. So if you have a service agreement that you send out, or support agreement, or terms and conditions, or warranty information, just anything that goes out on a regular basis with your quotes and proposals, you can save them as a literature file, and we can choose to include them by just checking the box, and that'll be included in the document. You'll see anytime you have made a selection on a tab, there'll be a little star next to that tab letting you know selections have been made. Same thing with spec sheets. If you have items that have more technical information or just additional information that you want to include when you're sending out this quote or proposal, they'll show up here under the spec sheets. It'll look very similar to the literature tab, where they'll have checkboxes next to them, and you can choose which ones you want to include in the document. And then the links tab, again, is going to look similar to literature tab. Anything that you've attached to this document. So someone had asked earlier in the webinar, if we choose this document, or we link a document here, are we going to be able to send that to the client? Yes, this is where you're going to actually select it. So if I had attached something on the link tab, it would show up here. Now you'll see on the right-hand side, we have our selection panel. This is going to show you everything that you've selected in your document, and this is essentially where you can choose the print order of the information. So I want maybe my agreement to print first, and then I want the cover page to print second, and then my layout, and then my other layout to print in that order. That's how I can make these changes. Or maybe I want my cover page first, and then my support agreement, then my layouts, or maybe I want this layout, and this layout, and then my support agreement. This is just where you're going to choose that order. And this is going to be important because we're going to merge all of the documents here that you see selected into a single PDF document that we deliver to the client. So it's going to be important that you select the right order. So that's why we give you this option to essentially select which document you want it to be, and which order you want it to print in. So in this case, it's going to be basically, if it just follows top down, it's going to be the cover first, the layout, the summary, and then the agreement. So that's going to be the order that everything is printed and previewed in the email. So let's go ahead and preview our document so we can see what it looks like before we send it. So this is an example of a cover page. So here's our cover page document, and you can see we're using macros to fill in the information on the document. So we have our document name, who's prepared for, and the document number for the client. On the next page, we actually include some information about the client. We have our sales rep information. You could even put in a note in here if you wanted to. I didn't have one set up, but if I did, it would actually print here on this document as well. Then we get into the line item information. So now you can actually choose or see the line item information that you're selling to the client. Usually you'll have the prepared for information, so who you're selling to, but you can see you'll have, if your items have pictures, they'll print a specific way and they can show up on the document. And then you can even set up a summary. So if you have things that are recurring and you want to break those out for the client, you can show them what their recurring charges are going to be. So this is all completely customizable. You can make your documents look however you'd like. There's quite a few layouts that come with the software already, so you don't have to worry about starting from scratch. But you can put in your own logos, your own company colors, change fonts, formatting. It's all very flexible. And then you'll see the support agreement literature document here. This is automatically going to be included as well. So, and I think this even has a kind of like a sign-off page here. Yeah, it does, so that the client can sign off on the document. So everything looks good. So we have two ways to deliver the document in QuoteWerks. We can just email this PDF, and we just send out this 12-page PDF as a single document to the client. So we can click on email, and that'll let us open up our email window, and you can see there's our PDF document. Now this email window can be customized, so if you want to change the verbiage in here, if you want to set some default text, you can set it up like that. If you want to use different email templates, you can set up different email templates. It's going to be up to you. Once you hit send, that'll email the document out to the client. That will also log in the ACT history that you actually sent that out. So if you sent out the email and the client said they didn't get it, you can always go back into ACT and see that it did go out. Or if you're curious if it went out, you'll see that it's available, and you'll see it's going to log it under the sold to contact by default. So that's the first way you can deliver it, is via email. Second way is via quote valet, and this is where we're going to deliver the client an electronic version of the document that they can accept or make payment on. So we're going to choose Upload to Quote Valet, and it's still going to build the PDF because we're actually going to include the PDF version. So you can see here's the PDF, so I'm going to choose Upload because we are going to include the PDF version as part of the document. And then you'll see here if we go to Send Email, there's no attachment. We're just sending the client just this link. So if I click on this link, if I open this link, we'll pretend I'm the client and I clicked on it and I opened it. This is what your client would see. They would see this document, opens up in the web browser, and then this sends an email to you notifying you that they viewed the document for the first time. So you'll actually get an email saying, hey, they viewed the document. Additionally, if they need the PDF, so if you do have terms and conditions or service information or anything like that, they can actually click on the PDF document and they can print this out and see a copy of it, see whatever's on there. And then down here you'll see the line item information, and this is one of my favorite features about Quote Valet, is that your documents become dynamic for the client. So if you do offer these optional items for the client, they can actually come in here and uncheck these optional items. And then you'll see it's actually deducted from the total. So here, if I add them back in, click Update, so it's going from 38, in this case, to 51. So it actually updates the total for your clients as you're working on it. You can even set up where you do mutually exclusive groups, where if you want your client to be able to select maybe this service instead of this service, you can set up a radial button. You even have the option to let the client change the quantity if you want to. I don't have mine set up that way, but you do have that option. And just like the layouts in QuoteWerks, the Quote Valet layouts are customizable as well, so you can put your own company logos and colors information in here. When the client's ready to move forward, they can actually sign off on the document. We'll go ahead and say this is our test document, so we don't confuse anyone. And we can accept it. And then this will send an email to you notifying you that the client accepted the document. If you accept credit card payment or PayPal, a Pay Now button will be available for you. If not, don't worry about it. That button just won't be there. So if you say, oh, you know, all our clients are terms, this Pay Now button just won't show up. If you click on the Pay Now button, it'll bring you to the payment screen, and you can actually see what the client would see if they were ready to make payment. They just fill in their information right here. So if we go back into QuoteWorks after we've delivered the document, you'll see there's a Quote Valet tab. This will actually show you all the activity for this document up to this point. So you can actually see it was viewed for the first time, they viewed a PDF attachment, they went back to it, they changed an option, accepted it, and then looked at the payment request page. So now that you know that they've actually moved forward with that document. Since the client's moved forward, we're ready to convert this to an order. So in QuoteWorks, we'll click File, Convert to Order. And when I hit OK, this will actually change my quote to an order. And it's also going to update your ACT opportunity as won or closed. And any changes will be reflected in your opportunity as well. So this is how we can kind of funnel everything from QuoteWorks into ACT without you having to be in both systems at the same time. You can just use QuoteWorks for all the quoting, and once it's been accepted, automatically update ACT. And then from here, you're pretty much done with the document on the QuoteWorks side. You now have the option to export that document to QuickBooks as an estimate, sales order, invoice, or purchase order. You can also send it over to Sage 50 as a sales order, invoice, or purchase order as well. For those integrations, if the items don't exist, we'll actually create them. If the client doesn't exist, we'll create those as well. So you'll make sure that everything is kind of talking to each other and everything is sent over at that time. So that's how we use QuoteWorks to with ACT to essentially streamline your sales process. You know, you're using a lot of this template information and then have the information flow easily into ACT and make sure that everything is set up or everything is sent over correctly and everything's accurate. You're not having to do double entry. Your line item information is going exactly where you need it to go. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording here. So I do appreciate everyone being on the call today. I'm going to stick around for the next few minutes and answer questions because there's quite a few that came in. So if you haven't posted a question yet, now's a great time to go ahead and start posting them, and I'll go through the questions and go ahead and answer them for you. If you don't have any questions, I appreciate your time today, and you guys have a great day.